I think listening to Shyam's grilling session, I think I'll go with the Q&A first because mine's also an office. But
I'm very sorry. I have nothing against wonderful architects' offices. I want to be part of one of them. But then I'm very disturbed when I go through our cities.
no, I understand. I understand. In fact, it was a good presentation, and thank you for your time. Yes, the biryani has settled in, but my butterflies are still, flying around. This story I'm going to tell you all is a project that that happened a few years back, and that was the first project of our office. We had to make our own space, and this project actually happened at a junction in my personal life where I had to choose between whether I had to go solo in architecture or I should, and a time where my family. So it was really in a very hard juncture. And this particular shot was also of a project that was a old textile factory which was being repurposed and made. So good and behold, the client just didn't want to have Mangalore tiles on the roof. He was like, no, it's too Kerala, we shouldn't be using it and stuff like that. And so he just removed the whole thing. He removed all those trusses that you see. But this building was about 100, 110, 20 years old. But the beauty in that was we had an opportunity to use a lot of those elements to create. And as an architect, your first steps, right, you always ask yourself these questions, can we do something different? Can we reflect one's character? There are a lot of questions which keep troubling one's mind. And then I think it all came together at that point of time. We had this parcel of land. My dad has this parcel of land, and then it was a junkyard. People were just throwing garbage around. It was full of Pampers. We had to remove about 8 loads of junk from here. But then those, all the drawings that you're going to see now was done after the structure was built. In fact, a year after the structure was built. So those questions kind of led to answers and experiences. As a child, one would always draw a house, a triangle and a square, and that is the understanding of space. But then when you're lost in a moment and when you don't know what to do, you always think you have to uplift yourself, and that was how we actually evolved this whole thing. We wanted to keep space above so that we feel lifted, we feel lighter, we feel good about it. So what we did was, this is what we had, and these are the photos where we got the stuff from the textile factory. We got tiles from another place which is about 8 kilometers away. 3-4 locations. You see those old doors and windows. Good pivoted stuff. But then it was all rusted and twisted. So truth be told, whatever you're going to see now, we've reused about 90% of the materials, and 10% was like the glass, the new things that we made. But this was the condition of it. It was all useless like me at that point. While I don't want to bore you into too much of technical stuff, this is how we reused everything. We used the tiles as the floor, the wall, the roof. We used the pivoted windows at the lower level. We used cement blocks. We used a lot of these materials which are not required. And in fact, the sections that we got from the trusses were all blessing in disguise. You don't get those sections now. Lo and behold, we were able to reuse those sections. In fact, we didn't even have a structural engineer. We had amazing workers who had a tacit sense of knowledge of material. You ask them how much span will this take, and they'll say, sir, it'll take a meter, it'll take, so they have some kind of sense. So every time they would say, sir, we can do probably 2 feet or 3 feet, I would say, why don't we go 4 feet? Because finally, we are experimenting. We are trying to create our own space. So this is, there this goes again. Yeah. So quickly on the plans, this is a structure which is spread across 3 levels. The lower level, we've kept it as porous as possible. We have a veranda, we have a koi pond, we have a small tinna, we call it, and we have a staircase which takes you to the upper level. The upper level, right now we have space for staff to sit. We don't have any hierarchy within the office. It's only my white hair, which is very misleading. The TT table is a space where sometimes we grow, or sometimes we use it. So the central level, the level 1 is where you can connect with the whole area around, and the top is the brainstorming pod or the movie area, something like that. So that's how it is sectionally placed. But what we did is we rushed into finishing, the whole structure was built in 6 months. We finished the whole thing. And so what we did was we finished the framework of the structure, the skeleton of the building. We used all those sections. So all those materials had limitations. Some of it were 8 feet, some of it was 7 feet. So we used that to create the framework. And then those tiles below, we used it to get it onto the walls and stuff like that. The lower level, if you see, this is a sectional cutaway where we've used the pivoted windows to breathe into the space. Yeah, so all that you see in red is the terracotta tiles over there. That's what we've been able to use. So I think the challenge at that point of time was, how do we reuse this? We have this material, and at that point of time, those questions really hit you. If life can give you another chance, why not use it? So all these materials are about 60, 70, 80 years old. So when you look at those tiles, you can see that some of them have dates written on 1901, 1925. So there's a lot of story which comes to it, and I think life is all about experiences. So that's how we created this. This is another sectional cutaway, which, there's a lot of experience. You can actually, at some point, you can touch the roof. At some point, you can feel the space. So I think for us, scale and proportion is important as architects. So I think if you can be intimate with a building, I think that's the best. And whatnot if it's your first project for the office. So that character in red is my son. Just beside him is my dog. We have 3 dogs now. So this is the space now. It's evolved. It's grown up a bit more. But this is essentially what it is. We've lifted the whole structure, kept it as light as possible. The space below where you see these tiles growing, and we've used natural materials as much as possible on the project. This is how the pivoted windows are working, what you see on the left. Sometimes we keep it straight, we use it like a workstation. So it's a very informal space. Sometimes we read the newspaper, sometimes we have food over there. We go upstairs, and then this is the whole space. So that table behind sometimes becomes the dining table, sometimes it's the conference table, sometimes it's the TT table. The room above, that's the brainstorming pod, or the lazy corner. The space in front now where my son is reading Asterix, that's another workstation now. We're using that space as a workspace there. And you're always connected with the elements outside and inside. So at any point, even though you're on the first floor, you know what's happening all around. So it's fun. It's a nice place to be. And everything being open as much as possible has also created that sense of openness and transparency. And I think that is what we are about. And the way natural materials come in and breathe in. We've got a very clean floor plate which kind of hinges around this courtyard space. So that's how the whole thing is created. All these things that you see in black are about 100 years old. At this particular point, there's one thing I just want to talk about. For me personally, a couple of years back, I had the honor, I would say, to stay in IIM Ahmedabad. In the hostel done by IIA Kerala. And we were there for about 3 days. And then one of the questions that I kept on asking everybody, what is it that you like about it? Because it's all brick. So one of the housekeeping people, he said something which is still stuck to me till date. He said that, sir, this building, this whole space makes us feel as one. I just didn't get it. And then after he just paused and smiled and he said, maybe it's the brick. So probably for us, I think what makes us all together is this sense of, coming together, getting things, tacit, being part of one, bringing things together, getting spaces becoming one, keeping it as multi-purpose as possible. And is it the tiles that bring us together? I don't know. But then it's the purpose of giving life another chance that has brought us together. We've used the mangrove tiles. In between those lines that you saw are actually those old glass tiles. So, in between we've been trying to explore a bit, and that's what we've tried. In fact, these photos that you see are about 4 or 5 years old. We've done another extension, which is like a growth from that side. Probably we can dwell on that later. And yeah, that's what we are, and that's how the space is. We've tried to make it as dynamic as possible, and I think if space can reflect one's character, and if life gives us a second chance, why not give materials a second chance? That's what the project is about, and please do come whenever you're in Cochin. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to the question and answer session.
You should ask. You should ask me that question. We can grow to 25 people. We can.
My concern little bit is that, we're all, clearly everybody's talented, they all understand how to work this, and I think the challenge would have been to be able to demonstrate this in a hardcore, real
Commercial.
because the questions that commercial projects ask are of a very different nature
True.
than the projects a home asks. The questions that a home asks,
Yes.
these are questions which are being answered that a home asks,
Yes, yes, yes.
right? To only then we will be able to understand the difficulty of the people who really and actually muddy their hands in those projects.
Yes, yes, yes.
I don't do it as a practice, but I respect the person who does it well because I see very little of it being done well.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I think at some level we will have to find the courage to be able to acknowledge that hard work. So which is why I felt a little disappointed. I did not see any project which was grappling with those problems of density, problems of cost, problems of efficiencies. These are not questions that architecture really wants.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to ask questions of efficiency for making a beautiful space. But I want to know if somebody has been able to actually answer that question in a beautiful space.
Got it, got it.
Because for me, that is the learning. And one of the reasons we do these awards is that we learn from each other.
In fact, I was belted at the responsible architecture place. They were asked, why did you give it in this place? I said, that's what we saw. So there was no other opportunity. Like there was nothing about adaptive reuse. There was no section about that. So
No, we've just finished our own house in doing exactly a similar thing. There was an old rundown house and taken out the material and refurbished it. And I think it's probably the most responsible thing to do today. But it's not a commercial space.
got it, yeah.
My only difficulty is in aligning what it wants to be proclaiming.
Got it.
Yeah? It's beautiful, and like you said, if you need somebody who's a middle-aged architect, I'm here.
No, but probably, I shouldn't be saying this, but if architecture doesn't go well, I can convert that to a bachelor's pad. A good Airbnb space also. So I have probably done something there. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I've already got a lot of offers, but then so far architecture is kind of working. So. Yeah. Yeah. But it's all taken care of. There's also a pool coming up, and so it's all done. Yeah, I should. No, but as long as I'm working, it's okay. And then, well, now it's beautiful. We've got 3 dogs. It's a fun place to be. It's a good place. Yeah. Thank you.